I just wanted to, not just, I wanted to come on and just share, well, I said it just again. I want to share a little bit with y'all about leadership, and what is leadership, and, having a 20-year military background in leadership, you're around it a lot. And there's definitely ones that I can reflect on and say, man, those people were awesome. I'd follow that guy into war anywhere. And then there's others that I would say, man, I don't have anything to do with this guy. I can't wait to get out of this squadron or in this area, so I don't out from under that person's leadership. Let's put it that way. Now, you may not have been in the military, and that's totally cool. But think about it like for your teachers, your bosses. And for us in network marketing, we obviously work with a team of people, and so you got various leaders, various leadership styles along the ways, and as you work with the various people that we work with, all the way up to the company. So it's very interesting, and leadership is a science. I'll tell you what, leadership is not just black and white. There's so much that goes into leadership, and what I wanted to do real quick on this live video for everyone that is interested in this, and I know not everybody may not be interested, but understand everybody is in a leadership role, whether you realize it or not. The number one person you're leading is yourself, right? So a leader of one, a leader of many. If I can't lead myself, I can't lead any, right? So if I can't lead one, I can't lead any, but the one is really reflecting on yourself. So it really does begin with you, and that's why personal growth and the reading, as my post was earlier today, is so important. But then, you've got parents. Parents are leaders of their kids. They're a leader of the household. Maybe who's ever the breadwinner is a leader in that respect. Who's ever taking care of the house is a leader in that respect. Who's ever responsible for taking the kids to school and picking them up, or making sure that they are grounded in great values. That is all leadership, all right? So we are all involved in leadership. Now, when you get into business, and especially our industry and network marketing, where you're leveraging yourself with other people, saving yourself time, energy, and money in many different ways while creating wealth, leadership becomes really important. And so I will put out, before I even get started, I'm going to put out a little to anybody that would like to give me feedback, especially for my team, on my leadership style privately, if you don't mind. Criticize in public. I mean, criticize in private, right? Praise in public. But if it's there, one thing that's very true is there's no failure. There's just feedback. So if anybody would like to give me feedback on this live or in this topic of leadership and where I stand with you in leadership and leading our team, I'm very open to it, because the only way that I can approve is to be aware of my blind spots, right? And my goal is to be the very best leader for our team in all ways. And I'm going to break that down, how you can figure that part of it out, and I'm going to be asking my team members to go ahead and do this little exercise. I'm going to be introducing you here in a little bit of where I stand with you. And here I am in public asking for it, because I am always seeking to become better. And I believe that is also a good sign of a leader. If a leader is not looking to get better, they can only go so far. I can only lift you as team members as far as I can take you based on my personal growth and my leadership capabilities. So if I increase my leadership and my personal growth, that means I can raise you up even higher and take you to an even better place yourself. So constantly improving and working on ourselves is so vitally important, in my opinion. So what I want to do is, there's 3 great books. John Maxwell is recognized as a very powerful leadership coach, if you will. He's written, I don't know how many books now, plenty of books. I just got recommended another book of his that I hadn't heard of about, that, I can't remember the exact title, but Leaders Ask Great Questions, or questions that leaders should be asking, or something like that. I've ordered it. I'm waiting for it to come in. But John Maxwell is huge in leadership. And there's 3 books that we kind of pass down through our team that we believe these 3 books give you a very, very good overall encompassing knowledge base, if you will, and wisdom on leadership, what leadership is, how to lead yourself, how to lead others, and then the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. So the way we recommend reading these is in order. And it begins with John Maxwell's developing the leader within you, right? If you don't start with yourself, then, that's where it all starts, folks. I hate to tell you, right? So lead yourself first, all right? So this is going to be developing the leader within you. Once you complete that book, and I obviously really encourage journaling along the way, making sure that you are aware of the lessons that you're pulling from the book as you read it, and then by journaling it, you can go back to it again later. So once you finish that book, and I would allow it a month for each one of these 3 books. That's a 3-month program, and I'm going to give you a 4th book, which is my favorite. So it could be a 4-month program for you, but the next book is developing the leaders around you, right? So now in network marketing, the industry that we're in, that's obviously huge. Sure that doesn't fall out, but that's huge, right? Developing the leaders around you. How are you lifting up the people? How are you helping your kids as a parent, helping them to become leaders amongst their peers? All right, because if they learn it early on, they can take that into life and every other aspect of their life. Following that book, this is my favorite of John Maxwell's by far, and that's the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And now, why is that important? He's going to give you all the pitfalls that leaders tend to fall into and that hold leaders back. But these are 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. He wrote this book, by the way. I was just going to look at the copyright on this. Whoa. And this edition, at least, originally 1991. Nope, 98, excuse me, 1998. But tell you what, man, this is one of those timeless gems that will never outdate itself. It is always current information because they're truths, just like the Bible. I mean, it's just truths. You can't get away from truth. All right, so that's the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. Now, the one that I'm going to recommend that I find to be my personal favorite. And here's the reasons why I love this book so much. This has been, especially for us that are in network marketing. If you're not in network marketing, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're in a traditional business or a CEO of a company or whatever. You're going to get valuable information from this book I'm about to give to you. I think it takes those 3 books plus additional hands-on information from people in our industry of network marketing, which if you don't know about network marketing is like herding cats because you are not a boss. All right. You cannot order somebody to do something. The only way to encourage somebody to continue on their path is to inspire them and motivate them from the inside out. And that is a totally different elevated level of leadership. We're not talking about positional leadership like we do in the military. We are talking about influential leadership by just being a good leader, right? This was brand new to me when I first got into network marketing over 20 years ago, but I can tell you that it has literally changed my life and my awareness and how other people operate and how to connect with other people. Now, this book that I'm about to share with you was written by 2 top network marketers. They were executives, engineers. Both of them were engineers for, I think it was General Motors. And they sat in their cubicle every day, but they had a vision of something better. They were sick and tired of being sick and tired going into their cubicle every day. And so they had visions posted on in their cubicles of where they wanted to go. And one of the things they had to learn along the way, they started building their network marketing companies, is that about leadership. And so what they did is they started out with a trifold, a little postcard, if you will, that they were handing out to their team members on what they kind of defined leadership as to help grow the people underneath them as leaders. Well, that eventually evolved into this book called Launching a Leadership Revolution. It's by Chris Brady and Orrin Woodward, and it is very well written. And I believe it takes those other 3 books from Maxwell's learnings, along with their hands-on learnings of actually building a network marketing team onto the next level. And there's one of the things that they bring up, and one of the real big takeaways, there's a lot of takeaways in this book, but one of the biggest takeaways from this book, and I believe this is available on Amazon still, but one of the biggest takeaways is their trilateral leadership ledger. So let me break that down for you a little bit. The trilateral leadership ledger is going to take three categories of leadership, three categories. It's going to be your character, your tasks, and your relationships, and then quantify those. All right. On page 96, for instance, he's going to break down character into honesty. Is honesty important as a leader? What about integrity? How about courage? Right? Being able to do, courage is facing fear and going after it anyways. If you want to, any leader knows what it's like to face fear and go after it anywhere. So I will tell you, courage is a big piece of this. Proper values based on absolute truths, faith, a humble spirit, so important. Patience with others, discipline, and self-mastery, right? That personal growth, constantly working on yourself, striving to become better and better. And then under tasks, right? So it's character, tasks, and relationships. So under tasks, they define tasks as acceptance of responsibility. We're really good as human beings blaming everything else out there instead of taking on ownership for everything. And I'll tell you the main difference between the two. When you're blaming, when you're finding the reasons, finding the excuses, what you're actually doing is being in what's called effect. And when you're in effect, you cannot solve a problem. It's impossible. So there's this great thing of cause and effect. So that's being in effect. You can't solve a problem when you're in effect. So if you're faced with a challenge and you're blaming out there, realize you're going to be stuck in that problem for a long time. It's not until you step away from that and go, oh, you know what? Yeah, there may be all these reasons and excuses why I'm where I'm at, or why my team is where it's at, or why my employees are where they're at, or why my kids are where they're at, but it all is going to come back to me. I have to accept responsibility. What can I do to change the situation, to improve upon this situation? You just can't just wish it into existence. You've got to be able to take action. And once you start taking on that ownership for whatever the situation is, and you go out personally to find that solution, then you move yourself from in effect to at cause. And when you're at cause, now you can become a problem solver. All right? Do you think that's important as a leader? You better believe it. Oh boy, that was the first one of these. Work ethic, availability, right? Are you behind? Do you lock yourself in a door, behind an office door and never get out and see your people? There's a lot of leadership books talking about the importance of being able to get out amongst your employees to be able to actually speak with them, or having the open door policy, as you will. As a network marketer, it's picking up the phone and connecting with your leaders. So, and your people, and the follow-ups, and your contacts, and your prospects, right? It's about being available for these people to help them become better, to help them get started, whatever it may be. Maybe it's just advice. Maybe it's mentoring. Do you think all that is important as a leader? You absolutely can believe it is, all right? So that's still under tasks. Tenacity, all right? Tenacity is huge. That's one of my, I will say, natural attributes. You give me a task, I'm going to stay at it until I accomplish it. Sometimes it's to my detriment, but most of the times it's served me very, very well. Willingness to invest your time, you better believe it. It's not about, hey, I'm working a 9-to-5 job. If you want to become better, this is a 24/7 ordeal. So just jump into it with both feet and accept that. All right? It's not on your time necessarily when you're presenting yourself or creating yourself to be a better leader. All right? If it's just on your time, then you're not being acceptance of other people's situations. So sometimes you may be in the middle of something that's important to you, but you have a team member that needs your help like right now. And if you make yourself available for them right now, then they're going to remember that, and they're going to honor it, and they're going to respect it. They're going to respect your time anyhow. And if they don't, we teach people how to treat us is a great, another little quip that's very powerful. But, if you're being treated with disrespect, well, then that's on you. Again, don't blame the other person. You've treated them or you've taught them that it's okay to treat you with disrespect. That goes for relationships as well. There's another place where leadership shows up all the time. So in a very constructive, in a very mindful way, you want to help that person understand why it doesn't align with you, how you're being treated by them. All right. Let's see, perseverance and then execution. How well do you do your job? You think that's important as a leader, right? If you're just telling everybody else to do this work and you're not willing to do it yourself and you're not an expert in your field and you want to be, making $100,000 a month, well, then you might want to rethink that philosophy, okay? And then, so that is character and tasks, and then we move on to relationships. I'm going to show you how all this gets tied in together. Now, in relationships, I think this is one of the more important, but they're all equally important. But I think I say important because I think this is one of the areas that most people lack. They're really good at tasks. You can do your job really well, but maybe you don't relate to people very well. You can imagine a couple of engineers trying to learn how to relate better with people. So that was one of the things they had to do. One of the things I had to do was learn how to work better with people. As a pilot, I'm very analytical. In the military, I was very mission orientated. When I got into network marketing over 20 years ago, I didn't understand people and I didn't understand how to relate with them. I was an authoritarian position, if you will, positional leadership. So if I told somebody to do it, they would do it. Maybe they hated me for it, but that's okay. I was their boss, right? But no, that's the wrong attitude. You want to get people to want to do what you're asking them to do, right? It's a comes from a totally different place. It comes from a better place of love as well. So under relationships, they define relationships this way: accepting people, approving of people, appreciating people, seeing the good in people. Oh, that's very important. Praise in public, criticize in private. Yep. Encouraging people, caring for and about people, putting others first. All that kind of goes along. That basically how you could put it, putting other people's first. You've got your own individual dreams and goals, but that's not important to those people, the people that you're leading, right? The people that are your employees, to your kids. What's important to them is what's important to them. So understand from a different aspect what's most important to them and approach the conversations in the leadership style in that way. In NLP, we talk about being in second position, seeing it from another person's eyes. Really, really important. Seeking win-win arrangements. If I gain and you lose, that's not going to last in a leadership role, right? As a leader, that's going to fall apart very quickly. You might get some results, but are you going to be able to hold on to these people long term? All right? And I think so that's really important. Always look for that win-win. I win and you win, and we both win in this situation, in the positive outcome. All right? Understanding the outcome you're looking for, the vision, is part of this as well as a leader, I believe, although they don't address that here, but all this kind of ties into that. And then helping people accomplish tasks. Just don't give it to them. Help them if you know they've got a weakness in an area where you're asking them to improve or to take on this task, well, then work with them to improve on their weakness. All right, that's what your role as a leader is in network marketing. Again, if somebody's not really good at making three-way calls, for instance, I'm going to work with them to help them make three-way calls. If the contacting, inviting, maybe it's understanding the comp plan, whatever it is. In order for them to become more successful, I have to help them understand, see their blind spots. That's why we all have coaches, and then also to improve on their ability to accomplish tasks that without you they may not do as well. All right. And then living the golden rule. That goes without saying. Helping others or seeing others as you would, and treat others as you would like them to treat you in a very positive, uplifting way. So that's the trilateral leadership ledger. Now, how do you take the character, tasks, and relationships and put this into context so that you can understand what's going on here, all right? So you can quantify it. So these are just all a bunch of different traits that they highlighted as important in a leader. There's a lot more to leadership than just these three. But when I first read this book, when did I first read this book? First time I read it was in 2013, so 10 years ago. I was blown away because, again, I had been around leadership in the military, but I did not understand leadership. Military teaches leadership very differently. I will tell you that. And you cannot apply what the military teaches necessarily into network marketing when you got a group of volunteers. So, churches, when you got a pastor, they understand leadership. That's why John Maxwell, that's how he got started in all this, is he was a pastor, right? So he wrote from that regime of being able to build up these big churches when other people haven't been able to, and congregations and that was because of his leadership, and he decided to start writing it down to help other people. All right, so the leadership ledger, right? So we've got character, we've got tasks, should have started this further over, and we got relationships. All right, so we got 3 columns: character, tasks, and relationships. Those are the 3 things that I just broke down for you from this book. Again, I highly encourage you to get this book, Launching a Leadership Revolution. Now, what you're going to do is rate each one of these on a scale of 10 to 1. 10 being perfect, absolute highest quality of character imaginable. All right, so you're going to do that for each one of these. So a perfect score would be 1,000. You're going to multiply each column. So if you had 10, 10, and 10, you would have 1,000 points. So if you're multiplying, guess what happens if you have a 0 in just one column? Your overall score is a 0. All right? Have you ever been around a leader that's been a 0? Maybe they understood character. Maybe they understood tasks, but they were horrible at relationships. Dudes and gals, that's a 0, and that means as overall as an effective leader, they're a big fat 0. Now, if they got a 1 down here, well, okay, that's at least better than a 0, because the 0 cancels out the other columns. So 0 is really, really bad. Now, let's see here. Let's say pick your favorite teacher. All right, I'm going to use Mr. Murphy. And I talk about him in my best-selling book, Discovering Your Authentic Truth, as well. Mr. Murphy was an amazing individual. He changed my life in grade school, in middle school, I guess is what you guys call it now. So in 7th grade, 8th grade, in that period of time, he literally changed my life. And I'm not going to get into that story. It's not important. So I'm going to use Mr. Murphy in this example. When you talk about his character, from what I remember, God rest his soul, he obviously has passed. And I would go back and visit him when I go back into town after I was in the military and that. But he's just amazing. So when I think about Mr. Murphy as a leader, all right, somebody that I followed, somebody that I believed in wholeheartedly. So I want you to do that. Think of somebody like that for you. In your past, doesn't have to be current, just somebody that reflects like that. So I encourage you to get out a piece of paper, write down character, tasks, and relationships in 3 columns. Think of a leader. You can do me later, okay? But like I said, I am looking for feedback from my team. I would love to have it. So think about leadership, all right? Now, in these 3 categories, how I defined them from the book, Launching a Leadership Revolution. So under character, let's say, for Mr. Murphy, from what I remember, when I think about his character, he was an absolute 10. That gentleman cared about his people, all right? He really, really did. On tasks, let's say I give him, I don't know, because it didn't matter to me what he did, but we were always taking care of his kids in the school and everything, so I got to imagine he was pretty effective as task management, all right? And then on relationships, wow, he was amazing. I'm going to give him a 9 because not everybody resonated with Mr. Murphy, all right? He did for me. Oh, I lost my mic. A little comic relief in there, all right? So he did for me. He related to me very well. But I know some other people he didn't, right? He probably pissed off some people. So if I take this and I go 10 times, I don't know, shoot, man, I got to do math in public, right? So I'm going to take 10 times 7 times 9 equals, and you know what? Because I don't want to screw this up and embarrass myself. I know I can probably do this in my head, but 10 times 7 times 9 is 630, right? So 630 is a pretty darn good this way. 630 is a pretty darn good score on levels of leadership. All right. Now, what if we erase this? We don't think of Mr. Murphy, the best leader I've ever known. I can think of a gentleman in the military that if I said his name, any of my friends that were with him underneath his leadership would totally agree with me, all right? Because nobody respected him as a leader. Unfortunately, he was a great guy, all right? So his character, he flopped. It was really hard to follow him. Sometimes, I mean, it was like on point, and then other times it wasn't. Sometimes he would be attacking his people, other times he'd be praising them. And he had a very, very difficult time relating. And then in tasks, he thought he knew everything, but he wasn't as open to learning new things, and he definitely had a lot of blind spots. All right, so I'm going to go for character. I'd probably give him about a 6 on that. On the tasks, I'd probably give him about a 5, all right, which is right in the middle of the road, not exceptional and not horrible. And then relationships, this is where the guy suffered in his leadership role. Now, on a personal level, he was phenomenal. You go out and party with this guy, man, you'd want to be around him for, he was great. But in work and being around him from a leadership perspective, dudes, I'm going to give him a 2. All right? He had some qualities, but I don't know. So we go 6 times 5 times 2, and I'm going to get let's see that, 6 times, I'm telling you, man, that's what I thought, 60, right? So Mr. Murphy had 620, and this guy's got 60. And I'll tell you what, that's why I love this leadership ledger, because it is absolutely reflective of what I remember about those two individuals. So here's what I encourage you to do. Think about anybody that's important to yourself and in your life that has a leadership role in your life. Maybe you're younger and you still have your parents. Rate your parents, all right? Maybe it's a teacher. Maybe it's a boss. Maybe it's a leader in network marketing. Maybe it's the owner of a company, whatever it might be. I encourage you to sit down and do that little exercise. And all of a sudden, on paper, in front of you, you're going to see, whoa, now I understand why I love this person and following them, and why I don't necessarily need to be around that person, and I don't necessarily follow them as in a leadership role. Maybe I have to because they're my boss, but now you don't understand why it's not, the boss, right? So again, you go back to cause and effect. If you keep blaming your boss, that's not going to improve your life, right? Because you got to live with that. Maybe there's an opportunity to have a conversation with them and give them the highlights, or her, the highlights of what you enjoy about them, and then also maybe highlight some of the blind spots if you've got that kind of relationship where you can build that kind of relationship with your boss. Care enough to confront is another powerful quip. And when you do so, things can change around you. All right. We are all miracle workers. We can all create a better life for ourselves. And I truly believe it begins with leadership, leading ourselves so that we can lead others to their greater success. So I appreciate everybody that's tuned in, and I wish you all a beautiful and blessed day. Bye-bye.